What's up, everyone? Eddie Mercado here with BloodyElbow.com, and I'm about to speak with women's MMA pioneer Liz Carmouche as she is set to take on Katlyn Chookagian at UFC 205 in New York City at Madison Square Garden on November 12th. So let's give her a call and find out what she's been up to as of late, find out how her training is going for this bout, and then maybe figure out what she has in store for Madison Square Garden. Mrs. Liz Carmouche, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm really well. Thank you for taking out the time. I know you're extremely busy. Huge fight on your hands, UFC 205. It's setting up to be one of the biggest events of all time. You got to be excited about that.
Very excited. I was one of the fighters that went out and helped lobby to legalize it in New York. So now being a part of the actual first fight there is just an honor.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Since your last fight against Lauren Murphy back in April of 2015, the landscape of MMA has really changed a lot. I mean, from you got USADA's a thing now. The IVs have been banned for weight cutting. Weight cutting is new. It's early now. The UFC was sold. I mean, so much has gone on. What are your thoughts on the whole landscape of MMA right now?
It's exciting. It's the UFC has become a very, very different environment. As far as the weight cutting, I actually prefer this. I should be a 125er, so I've never had to use IVs. I've never had to do a weight cut, really. So I feel like this levels the playing field for the 135ers. If the people that are in that division, they're really 135ers if they're there now, because they really can't do a weight cut, especially if they have a short notice, and it's definitely not going to happen. But there's still some wiggle room with the IVs. I know that people do it, so they can still get away with it. USADA, I like it in the sense that, again, it levels the playing field. It definitely makes it fair for those of us that have always fought clean. And now if you're going to be a part of the organization, you have to as well. But I'll tell you what, when I've had a really long day of training and I'm looking to get some rest and they come to my house at 6 in the morning on a Saturday, I am not a happy person.
Oh, I bet. I can imagine.
Coming into my home, having two people shoved in my tiny little bathroom and waking me up with bad morning breath, not the way I want to start my day. But at least it's there for the right reasons. So that's awesome. I'm glad to see that both with weight cutting and with the USADA, that now fighting has become a fair sport.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, not just MMA has changed. I mean, women's MMA has catapulted. Of course, you were one of the very first, one of two women's MMA fighters in the UFC. Of course, you and Ronda Rousey. And it went from, just kind of getting into the UFC to headlining UFC 200. So you can kind of speak to how far women's MMA has come?
It's come a really long way. I mean, you can just look at the depth of the division alone. We started off, there was only the 135 division, and there were the top 8 females in there, and that was it. And they built it up to the top 10, and then so on and so forth. And now it's come to the point where we have 2 great divisions in the 135 and the 115 with rising females that are getting the best all over the world. Before it wasn't. It was just the top 10 you heard of, and that's all that they had. And just kind of cycling through, competing against each other. And now it's to a point where they're bringing in new talent. And all the gyms that you hear about around the world are starting to bring in these women and accept them and help groom them to be high-caliber female fighters.
Awesome. Where do you see it going? What do you think will be next, the next big move for women's MMA?
I'm hoping a 125 division. I keep lobbying for that and hoping that's going to be the case because that's really where I should be as far as it goes. And I think there's a lot of talent in the 125. And right now, women are kind of choosing when they're going to be in the biggest organization in the world, they're going to make some decisions. And it's either going to be that they're going to cut more than they should down to 115, or they're going to try and move up to 135. Either of which are kind of compromising their best abilities because they're having to choose a weight class that isn't fit for them. So I'm hoping that the 125 division will be implemented soon, and we can see some really high talented women really show off the talent that exists out there.
Okay. Now, about these high talent women, I mean, you personally have fought just about everyone there is. I mean, you are a true pioneer. I mean, is there like one fight in particular that stands out with you as being like the most memorable, or just one that's maybe more important than the others?
Of course, it would have to be the Ronda fight. I
Okay.
mean, everybody knows that when they say that, hey, I've seen you fight before. I'll tell you what, 100% of the time they're saying, I've seen your fight. They're referring to one of my 13 fights, not all the fights that they've ever been in. They're referring to the Ronda fight. That's the one fight anybody's ever seen. And it's the most memorable. That made the difference in female fighting. That made the difference in history. That was a milestone for women. So that really stands out, of course, as the biggest fight for me.
Okay, awesome. And definitely a huge milestone for MMA as a whole. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So, since you've been gone, Ronda Rousey, she kind of fell off. She was at the top, and then she had one bad fight and kind of hasn't been back. I mean, what are your thoughts on the way she's kind of almost been reclusive, kind of staying out of the limelight and kind of just getting herself back together?
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize, or maybe they didn't pay attention, they don't remember, is before she even had that fight, she had said that she needed to take a break, that she was going to take time off. And that's the first time we ever heard her say anything like that. Up until that point, she was focused on that fight, and it was all about remaining the champion. This is the first time we've ever seen kind of a chink in her armor leading into a fight. And, I mean, she was all over the place. She was a full-time fighter, but she was fully for the disposal of the UFC to do all that media attention. And that really wears down on a person. And doing all those fights. And when you have to look at it, she made such a marker in history for the UFC and for women's MMA that she really doesn't have to do that much more. She made history. She has that place that's never going to change. And she's making money making movies. I mean, if as far as it's going to make money, she's making more money making movies than anything else. So she really doesn't have to worry about her lifestyle and where that's going to go. And I mean, a lot of fighters can't handle, once they go on such a long streak of winning, ever losing a fight, and she hadn't. So that's a huge mental block for people. And
Sure.
if that was something that they'd never set up in their mind as a possibility, that can end a fighter's career.
Okay. Now, is a rematch something you're still looking forward to, maybe, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've always said it, and I always will, that my eye is always on that title, and that's what I'm gunning for. If I get a rematch with somebody, cool. But if they're not holding the belt, I really don't care. I want the person that has the belt, and that's what I'm going for. I don't think that Ronda will ever fight again, so I think a rematch is out of the question.
Okay. Now, the women's bantamweight division is literally wide open at this point. I mean, it's been championship hot potato. It's been going from one hand to the next. I mean, what are your thoughts on the current competition that's going on right now in the women's bantamweight division? I mean, it's pretty exciting.
I think it's really exciting. I think that it kind of lost a little bit of its luster a little bit when Ronda kept that title for so long. Yes, people wanted to tune in and wanted to watch it, but at the same time they didn't. It was like, it's going to be 20 seconds. I don't want to pay that much money for a 20-second fight. Now everybody's like, okay, what's going to happen next? And anticipation, that suspension about who's going to have it is making people tune in. They really get involved and start doing the research on all the fighters because it could be anybody at this point. And I like that for the sport because now people are really investing in learning all the fighters, and more women are coming up because they see a chance to try and get that belt.
Okay. Now, in your last match, you fought Lauren Murphy. What was your assessment of your performance in that bout?
I went out there and I had fun. I mean, I was smiling, I was laughing during the fight. I was just kind of going out there. I wish I pushed the tempo more. I wanted to showcase more things. Some moves I was working on that I tried that didn't quite work out. Definitely needed to get off the cage more. But I had a lot of fun in that fight, and that's what it's all about. If you're not having fun, you shouldn't be doing it. And I did have a lot of fun in that fight.
Okay. Now, after that, you were scheduled to face Rocky Pennington, but you had to pull out due to injury. What exactly was going on with the injury, and exactly how, far along in the healing process are you?
I'm all healed up. It was just a little injury, enough to take me out of the fight, nothing too major. And then it was also things with my own family that I needed to take time off to take care of them, and my business. It was kind of everything all hit at once. Injuries with my family, illnesses with my family, the business falling apart, everything happened and slammed all at once. So I had to push the brakes and just take a step back from fighting. It was unfortunate. And of course, nobody wants to. When you have that drive and you have that flow and everything is going good, the last thing you want to do is put brakes on it. But at that time, it was something that I could do and I needed to do.
Okay. Now, You're about to make your return. You're set to fight Katlyn Chookagian, if I said that right, at UFC 205 in New York City, Madison Square Garden. It's finally legal there. Huge event. I mean, what were you thinking when you got the call that, hey, you're on UFC 205?
Yeah, I got the call, and I was asked if I wanted to fight at Madison Square Garden. I automatically said yes. Didn't even see who the opponent was. I saw Madison Square Garden. That's all I saw. That's all I cared about. Yes. And honestly, I just wanted to fight again. I've been begging them for I can't even tell you how long I've been begging them. I took that little hiatus, a little break, and now it's been like pulling teeth to try and get a fight again. And literally begging them all the time. We're like, okay, if you contact me one more time, I swear. I'm like, all right, I'm sorry. I really want to fight. I'll show you videos if you want, like see me training, like anything I can do to get back in there. So when they offered me, I didn't care what the circumstances were. I didn't care if it was Chris Cyborg at 155. I just want to fight. So to go against an opponent who I think we have a really good matchup, to do it at Madison Square Garden, to do it 205, that's my way back in, is just that much better.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely a huge card. Now, Katlyn Chookagian, she is a Jersey girl, I believe. So she might have the crowd a little bit on her side, do you think? Or do you think people will recognize Liz Carmouche, the MMA pioneer? I mean, who do you think the crowd's going to get behind?
Well, I have family out in Jersey and New York, so I definitely know when it comes to the camaraderie and the support that they get for their homegrown heroes. So I think there'll be a lot of people cheering for her. But a lot of people don't know is that's what I feed off of. When I hear boos for me and cheering for them, it feeds a fuel and an anger within me that makes me take it out on my opponent. So if that happens to be the case and the crowd's on her side, it's not going to be good for her.
Okay, now what kind of a special training are you doing for her exactly?
I'm doing a lot of stuff, a lot of things that I'm not ready to unleash yet. I want to show in the cage. But I can definitely tell you that this training camp is probably one of the most intense training camps I've had yet. And it's barely kicked off. It's barely started. And because, a fighter's life is such a short span, and we have to take advantage of every opportunity that we have. And after having to take over a year off or before I can fight again, I'm going to take advantage and show everybody as much as I can in preparation for this fight. So I'm not making any mistakes. I'm doing the work. I'm working my butt off. Every moment matters in preparation for this. It doesn't matter if she was a champion or she was a nobody. I'm treating it as though it's the most important fight of my life.
Now, her last fight, y'all had a common opponent in Lauren Murphy. What'd you think of her performance in that?
I thought she did really well. That just showed me how hungry she was for it and how much she deserved to be fighting where she's at and that she's not somebody to overlook at all.
Now, there was a moment in that bout where Lauren was able to hold her down for a big chunk. I think it was the second round. You think that might be kind of your opening? Because you've been known to be a bit of a savage, with all due respect, in the clinch.
Yeah, that could be an opening. Like I said, wherever it happens to be, whether it's on the feet and I can showcase and dance around, have fun, do my thing, whether it's going to be cage control, putting her up there, ground and pound, submissions, everything. I'm open to show off everything that I have now.
Okay, do you have a prediction? How do you see it going down?
I see it going down a lot of ways. I mean, one thing that people underestimate, they know me for ground and pound. They don't know my submission game. And one thing that I showed off with Taps for Taps in that 16-man tournament, high-level purple belt division, and then winning that EBI spot, EBI 8, is that I also have a jiu-jitsu background. Most people don't know that. They don't think that I can submit. It's all about my ground and pound. But that's also tools that I have. They haven't seen me compete in wrestling. Maybe they missed that, but that also happened. Of course, the UFC won't let me fight for boxing or Muay Thai, but I got to work with high-caliber Muay Thai fighters and boxing fighters. So really anything is open at this point.
Okay, awesome. Now, what would be next for Liz Carmouche? Number 9 currently. Upward, someone in the top 5 perhaps?
Whatever they give me. If it's the top 5, if it's the contender spot for that belt, I'll take anything they give me. I just want to fight.
Okay, now you've already accomplished so much in the sport. Do you have any other goals that you want to accomplish?
Being the first belt holder at 125 and 135, that'll be a big one.
Okay, so you're really going to go hard for this 125 division?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm big on. I'm one of the tiniest 135ers. Anytime I had a 115er come in here the other day, And I looked at her, I'm like, how are you bigger than me? This makes no sense. I fight 20 pounds heavier than you. You outweigh me and you're taller than me. That makes no sense. So yeah, I'm gunning for a 125 division.
Okay. Now, do you have any sponsors or people you want to give a shout out to or any thank yous?
Yeah, I mean, a huge thank you just to Tin Planet San Diego. Everybody in preparation for Taps for Taps and EBI were so supportive in helping me out. They've been coming in early morning, late at night, just to come in and help me train to get ready for this fight. And in every camp so far in this time that I've been gone, they've been coming in at any hours. If I need them at 3 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock at night, they're here helping me out. So I can't say thank you enough to my team, all the coaches that are here helping me shape and become that much better of a fighter. Of course, the sponsors, Healthy Mama Meal Prep has been amazing and supporting me through all this. San Diego Cryotherapy, Mito XL, all of them, MSG, Massage Stretch Perform MSP, amazing. So I can't say thank you enough to my team, all the coaches that are here helping me shape and become that much better of a fighter. Of course, the sponsors, Healthy Mama Meal Prep has been amazing and supporting me through all this.
Awesome. Now, how can people follow you on this journey? What are your Twitter handles? All your social media platforms? How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, on Twitter and on Instagram, it's I am Girl-Rilla. You can look me up on Facebook under Liz Carmouche Official. Check me out on any of those. I'm there, put up pictures, being silly. If you see me on the weekends, it's usually me and my dog.
Okay, awesome. Well, Liz Carmouche, thank you so much for taking out the time. A true pioneer of the sport. Thank you for everything you've done for it. And I definitely look forward to seeing you. UFC 205, Katlyn Chookagian. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye. So there you have it. Women's MMA pioneer Liz Carmouche set to take on Katlyn Chookagian at UFC 205 in New York City, Madison Square Garden, November 12th. Go check it out. In the meantime, you can read me on bloodyelbow.com, follow me on Twitter at @TheEddieMercado, and go be a good person.